and we're going to make it a lot more interactive. So this is amazing. We got 1 hour, and we've got all the audience. So let's dive in. And so this guy right here, that is me. So not only am I the moderator, I'm also your MC for the day. I'm sorry if you feel catfished. That's quite a few years old. Um, so amazing. So welcome to the 9th annual Startup Boston Week. Our mission with this conference is to bring the entire startup community together across every industry, department, and funding stage. Startup Boston exists to connect, educate, and celebrate this ecosystem while serving as a trusted, unbiased guide to the best resources that can help you scale your startup. So I'm Harish, and I'm going to be your host for today. And before we dive in, my first big thanks is to Suffolk University for hosting us. Suffolk University has generously partnered with us for the last 3 years, providing this space in kind because of their deep commitment towards advancing Boston's startup community. So if you're interested in exploring entrepreneurship at Suffolk, they offer a variety of programs and opportunities. So be sure to stop by the table in the 5th floor in the vendor hall, and you can learn how they can help you support your entrepreneurial journey and how you can get involved in supporting their entrepreneurial student programs. So thank you so much for attending this, and we will jump to the session. Okay, I'm just gonna find a spot. Okay, so multimodal AI, so multiple modalities of AI basically, and it's been a huge buzzword, a great unlocker to varieties of really deepening our ability to solve problems, really disrupting industries, and enriching decision-making on multiple levels lately. And so we have Kiran here today, who's done some amazing work in building a product that's been AI first. So let's start with the introductions. I'm going to go first, just because I have a much smaller one to deliver, not as pronounced as yours. So I'm Harish. I work as an AI engineer. I work at Toast right here in Boston. And I've been a part of Startup Boston as part of their core team for the last 3 years. So I've been programming their data and AI track of events. So if you do not like any of the data or AI events, I'm the guy you complain about. So you can remember that. So let's jump to Kiran.
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Kiran Panjwani. I am the founder of a company called Founderway. For the last decade, I've been running accelerators and incubators. I've worked with over 2,000 companies in helping them go from idea to scale, helping them lead rounds of funding, strategically helping them grow. That brought me to a point where accelerators and incubators only accept about 98% on average in the world of companies, and 2% of the companies. What happens to the remaining 98%? Founderway is built for the 98% of companies, and we started as an edtech company building our education side of the platform, helping founders get educated about customer-centric design and design thinking with suggestive AI. As we grew our mission, we understood, what do founders really want more of? They're like, stop telling me what to do, go do it for me. How do we do more of that was through agents. And we built agentic workflows inside our platform, very relevant to the modality of AI that we're going to talk about. And then the other side, we started understanding, what else do founders want? What else do entrepreneurial organizations want? And they said, one of the hardest things that we find is matching founders to other founders that are working on a similar mission. How do you do that involving AI in helping match these people, not only by skill and industry, but by interest, by personality, and creating that deeper understanding and breaking that ice in a physical event. So we built part of that, and last week we launched the newest version of our platform, which has voice incorporated inside our platform. So that's another mode that we added to our platform. And I'm looking forward to talking about how you choose modality, stick with it, and how you live through the pros and cons of it as a founder. Unfortunately, some of my peers are not able to join today, but we did have a kickoff call where we discussed the work that they were doing and how different modalities played part in decisions in their own companies as well. So maybe I'll drop some hints from the conversations we've had earlier as well.
Awesome, awesome. Like I said, absolute rock star right here. So we're in good hands. But yeah, so you mentioned about how you started out with the platform with an AI first approach, and then now we have voice on it, and yet on the line there can be so much more. So let's start with, from your perspective, from your vantage point, what is multimodal to you? What are the modalities that you see in effect, and how do you see it going forward?
It's this is such an important thing to understand. And I'm also going to bring my fellow friends that were supposed to be here on this journey. When ChatGPT launched, it was called Chat with GPT-3, or whichever version it was. And chat was not the best interface that they thought that they should launch this product with. But as founders, they thought, let's launch something that users will want to interact with. That's where they got their first sight of data and how other people were interacting with it. They added voice later. Today it can do images. Today AI can do so much more than just chat. There's videos coming out of it. Sensors are another thing that we should consider as AI modality. Sensors, anything that can produce data for you that you can process through AI and then produce an output, is multimodal. So David's company, David actually is part of the ecosystem that I sit in, and he sits a few desks away from me. His company is a camera visual. They use to help visuals to help people who are out in the open ocean or in the waters to look for objects that are unfamiliar or they should try to avoid bumping into. And they use Cameraletics as the technology, as the mode, and then they process the data and help users see visually that there is something coming up, essentially, that sailors or people who are driving boats can't see. So there are different modes. And can I get a raise of hand in what is the interest here in modality in this? Are people in AI startups in B2C or B2B or hardware? What is the B2B? Can people raise their hands in interest in B2B? Okay. What is the interest in B2C? Okay, hardware? Wow, B2C and hardware. I saw your hand go up. I don't know where the overlap is, but okay, there was a lot of B2B hands that went up. That means it's a lot of SaaS platforms is what I would assume here. Okay, awesome. That's good to know.
Awesome, awesome. This is great. We're going to have a wonderful conversation going forward. Yeah, so if you want to interrupt or have a question at any point, feel free to raise your hand. And we have mic runners with mics, so please speak into the mic so that our virtual audience can also hear all the questions, all the awesome questions from the crowd. And so yeah, touching back on where we left, so I think the key point to note is that multimodality is not just the output. It's not just now an AI model can speak to you, it can generate images. It's also about the various forms of input we can feed from which we can generate intelligence. So like the sensors you mentioned, all these various forms of data that was earlier not really sourceable into an AI model is now largely becoming accessible. So from that starting point, let's segue into when is a good time to think about using more than just a very simple language model for intelligence. When do we resort to using more modalities towards producing intelligent product? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I think it depends on your customer. Who is your customer? How intelligent are they? What intelligence do they have in the mode that you're choosing? For example, if you're someone building a product for a person with a particular ability, you want to make sure that mode is activated. As simple as that, start there. What is their ability and what is the mode they can use? Then go up in sophistication of how is the customer currently solving the problem? Is the problem being solved visually today through a dashboard and they're using images, or is the problem being solved with a written text interface? Each of these, as you go through this brain tree of understanding who my user is, what is their capability, what is their skill set, and what am I building towards, and then having reach goals and moonshots towards saying, I'm going to build a strategy app where the user talks and then someone's writing in a whiteboard and it's populating all of their company data and helping them understand what they can do in the future. You really need a starting point of where you're going to start for any founder. And when we started, we didn't even start with the chat interface, to give you an example. We started with a feedback interface. A user would write an answer to a question like they would in an educational class, and they would press enter, and it would just give them an answer and say, hey, your answer is great. Think of these things, and you can improve it in this way. The user could not write back to ACE at that point. This is how simple we started. Today, we have 1,300 users going to the platform, and this is how we started at user one. So I want you to think of where do you start and then where do you plan to eventually go, right? And we just unlocked voice a couple of weeks ago. So building that path of modality of how you're going to grow your startup is super important to plan as part of your tech stack, because that leads you into what am I going to build on? So these are some important questions that you want to answer to yourself as a founder and hold yourself accountable. Now, add a layer that is super important today, which is vibe coding, no code. How do you build with that? What is easier to build versus what is more difficult to build, and you can leave it for later on in the pipeline. But if you choose something easy to build, how are you adding value? Does your customer really feel like if you're going to put that out there, how is it different than what they are currently using, and how much value is it adding? Are they going to pay the dollar for it or not?
I love that point. I love that point. Are they going to pay for it or not? Because so much stuff is popping up everywhere. Working for an enterprise company. So if you are to include a new form of intelligence, like I don't know, voice or be it video or anything like that, something that is not conventionally already in practice. If you want to implement something new, there's a bunch of AI companies popping up everywhere. Anything you can do, there's just so many vendors out there. So what makes a difference, right? Where can you harness that user data? What kind of data does the user have? And how can you add value by building on top of it? I love that point. Like I think that's what that matters in terms of the crux of where the value comes from. And so Kiran, I remember from one of our previous conversations, like when we were discussing about the contents of the panel, you were mentioning how now that you've added voice onto the panel, onto your product, so this adds an additional layer of user data on top of the existing data. So how do you bring it all together? Like it's not just a new modality is not just a new modality. It is a way of augmenting the existing levels of modalities. So how do you bring it all together?
So I'm going to take a huge step back, and I'm going to say, if you have a platform where a user can input fields, fill in their own information, versus an AI is writing information inside your database, it changes the structure of your database. We today don't feel confident for our AI to be writing this in the same databases as our users are writing or our systems are writing. So first of all, we basically went back to our architecture and said, how are we going to separate our architecture in a way that we can identify as a company very quickly what data has been written by AI versus what data has been written by our users or provided as input by our users. So setting up that structure earlier on can really help you scale and build that dream company that you want to build for the future. So picking the right tech stack is super important. That will allow you to scale into that. So think about that firstly. Secondly, for a company like ours where, obviously you think we remember putting voice as a feature in our product pipeline, but we didn't think that we would activate it so quickly, and we didn't think that our users would want it this much, to be honest with you. And one of the most important things that happened when we launched voice was we launched it as an April Fool's joke, and we said, who needs a co-founder? Ace can be your voice co-founder that's available 24/7. When we built it sort of in a silo outside our current database structure, because we were like, let's test it. Let's see if it works or not. It was not behind a paywall or a lock, or it was just like an open feature for anybody to use. And now that we've brought it in for our users, we've now structured it in a way that there's content of what you're saying to ACE that is getting put inside our AI databases, and then anything that gets overwritten into your core business identity, it will go back and ask you, I suggest these changes in the core memory of the platform to help you better. Do you agree or not? So you also have to build for controls in the user's hands, because AI can misinterpret, AI can hallucinate. So when you add a new mode, you want to see how you're going to integrate it to your current mode, and how is that data going to talk to each other and live together in this unified space.
Yeah, that's a very crucial point. So thank you for pointing that out. And let's dive slightly deeper into that. You mentioned how your tech stack design has to be kind of it has to you need to envision the larger use cases and the regulatory setup of where you place controls. So my question there for you is actually a small anecdote. That's where my question comes from.
Sure.
It's that so yeah, I recently heard, like, I met with some folks, and yeah, over the last couple of days, the conference, and I've been told that at a startup, the second easiest way to go belly up in funds is payroll, and the first easiest way to burn through your money is cloud computing bills.
Yes.
So when you say that, once you enable any like new tech with AI, everybody wants to use it. Right?
Yes.
So what's stopping us from losing everything in like just voice model tokens, right? So how do you choose, in terms of the model and the whole intelligence setup in your tech stack?
I'm gonna give you guys a secret. I am super cheap. I am the cheapest founder you will ever find. I look at the tech stack that we dream of, and then I go and look for startup programming, and I go to them and I say, how can I be part of your program? How can I support you in your mission so you can support me in my mission? So we're part of the Microsoft Startups program. So they pay for a lot of our tokens for the reports that ACE generates. Where I'm arguing currently petitioning a startup program with WAPI, which is a voice service provider that we use on our platform, to say, can we be part of your program? When we do testing, we use Make to prototype our ideas. We're part of the Make startup program. Just like we have found startup programs for the tech stack that we want to use, we are currently also, this is a shameless plug, building a directory of perks for our founders, so that when you decide to use a tech stack, you can come in on FounderWay and get the FounderWay discount, or become part of that organization, that program that provides that tech stack for you. So definitely cost is one of the main things. But then you also have to look at, for example, we want to be the company where 95% of our engineered code is written by AI, because we want to stay lean, and that's what VCs are looking for now. What percentage of your tech stack is written by AI? So we're trying to invest in tools like Cursor or Devin or Cloud Code. Pick the one that works for you. That's been one of the hardest pieces to pick. It's like picking a racehorse. You don't know which one's gonna win and which one's gonna double down on the technology, or on the features that you will use the most. So that's the other thing that comes with picking something, is you have to live with it. We remember we picked Langflow for something, and recently we've been doubting ourselves now on Langflow. I'm no offense to anyone who works for Langflow or is using Langflow, but there are companies like N8N that have come up and can do what Langflow can do and more. So you start thinking, and you cannot hop platforms once you choose one. It's very hard to integrate things into your tech stack. So yes, knowing which.
Yes, one second.
Just gonna finish my thought, but knowing what you're going to build for and what your future entails is super important to pick, but then understanding, will this company be doing what you want to grow into as well?
How successful this on?
I think so.
No, can you flip the switch up? Okay, there you go.
Yeah, it's working.
How successful have you been in getting to 95% functional code generation using AI?
Our peers very successful. Even if you even look at Cloud Code, the company itself, they write their own code through 95% Cloud Code. Claude Code, sorry. Claude
Cloud
Code,
Code,
sorry. This is, yeah, Claude Code, Anthropic, to be clear.
I can speak a little bit on
Yeah,
that
sure,
as well.
you're
I
an
use
engineer.
I use Cloud Code on a daily basis. At this point, it's become kind of indispensable to live the developer life. So one of the great things that Cloud Code does is that uh, an engineer using Cloud Code is going to generate amazing code compared to a non-engineer using Cloud Code. It's a matter of how much context you're able to feed it, and so a highly experienced engineer who's worked on a particular tech stack, who can describe a certain problem using the right technical terms, they can generate excellent output out of Cloud Code. So once again, at the end, it comes to how contextually rich can you instruct a certain LLM to generate code for you. Just like you make it generate any piece of content, if you treat code the same way and you use the right amount of contextual terms, it can generate really good code. And one of the great things that found Cloud Code or any AI-based code generation to be useful is to set up test cases. So because it's been exposed to a good amount of code bases, it can generate decent test cases on the fly, and that I would say is a way for you to not only make AI write code, but also make it evaluate itself with the whole test suite that it will generate first. So you can go and tweak that as well. So human in the loop coding has been lately with I think Claude Sonnet 4, it's been super efficient. Yeah.
And it also tells you things that you didn't think of. Yesterday, when I met my CTO, we talked about picking one of the platforms and we were testing. And we're like, which one can actually also brainstorm with you and tell you, hey, have you thought of this other component that should be part of this? Or are you collecting data on this feature that you're building? And this is how you should collect data for data analytics for understanding your user base as well. So definitely, you can get to that 95%.
Can I ask a follow-up? Sorry, you
Yeah,
can't see me.
absolutely.
So I know from a legal perspective, when you code through Cursor or Claude, that's not something that you can copyright or use as like IP. So how do you deal with that? Are you tracking what you're coding through AI? And if you are, how are you tracking that?
We are not necessarily, I'm just going to speak from my perspective, we are not necessarily going down that track for, patenting something or, it's that's not as something that we've thought of, but it's such a great question that you bring up because a lot of people that are trying to patent something should be careful about whether their idea is patentable or not because it was written through a code generation. But what about, sorry, I'm going to ask you a question back. What if it was run on my local machine in my terminal and I'm running the LLM in my local environment and it's not interacting with is that still considered non-patentable?
I'd have to ask a lawyer in the room. I don't know.
Sorry.
Yeah, I can maybe share my experience with that area. In terms of AI-generated code, we do track, at least in my org, we do track all AI-generated code lines. I think there's a very small macro you can use to keep track of. I think even you can just use, there's a piece you can just use to keep track of all the Git commits that your AI piece makes. So GitHub's also a great facilitator to keep track of who generates what piece of the code. And from a patent perspective, yeah, I've worked on a few data products, certain proprietary stuff, and from a patent angle of talking to the legal team who works on patents, in terms of generating a piece of code or a logic or an algorithm, it's not really patentable in this age because everything is out there. Pretty much a new algorithm that you even might develop using an AI, like you might describe a problem, give it a context, describe the data you have and the kind of output you get, and the AI can hook up an algorithm to do that. It's still not really patentable because it comes from some source that we don't know that the AI model is generated, and at the same time, we don't, I think because Claude has generated that, maybe if we use that in like a social media perspective, or if we use that somewhere else where we put it in the public eye, you'll probably have to credit or at least put a disclaimer that this was AI generated, particularly if you use it to generate any media content or if you use it to edit images or something like that. But from the patent perspective, what really matters is how uniquely you are having a pipeline where you use a certain piece of raw data and convert that into some piece of intelligence. So it's mainly how you facilitate that the moat is in the data, it's not in the algorithm. When it comes to a patent, it's truly about how you can take a piece of data, how you kind of protect that to be proprietary, and how you process it in a way that is useful for you to feed an algorithm and generate a piece of intelligence. So from my limited experience so far, I would say that the key driver of a patent in this particular multimodalities of AI now being enabled, the key driver is going to be the raw data that is being fed into the pipeline rather than the content that is generated by the AI pipeline. Thank you. Okay, we'll circle back to the last point where we left. So monetizing, right? If you can generate revenue without breaking the bank, essentially, and you mentioned, you talked to the founders about what is their position, what's the budget, how much can we afford to burn through in setting it up. So I remember in our previous talk with Paul also works with quite a bit of startups as part of his company, GI Insight. So yeah, he also mentioned that, so that is what is the key. It doesn't matter if you have like a niche, nice new model, just because you have a AI tool that can take in or spit out a new form of data. It really matters in terms of, do you provide a value and will people pay to use your product? That's at the end of the day, that's the only thing that matters. So I think it's great that you mentioned that you need to go in with that mindset of how do you generate revenue from this product while you're building it. You don't come to it at a later stage after you built the product. You keep that in mind as you design it. So yeah, that comes first. And so I want to switch gears for a quick bit now, because I know your experience, your expertise is in this area, and I've heard you mention that the overkill of AI or overkill of multimodalities is nowhere near the importance of having a good user experience. So let's dive into that. What is your philosophy or policy into thinking that designing the whole process now?
I think once you choose the mode, then the experience has to be designed. When you choose multi-mode, you have to be even more careful, because there's multiple ways that you can get input from users and save that in your database. And what if during a voice call I had a different experience than what I'm having as an experience in the chat? How do you align the modes is super important. So pick one that you will be the most successful in with your current persona. 2 or 3 modes activated, and they're all doing surface level stuff. So picking the right mode is about picking the right experience for users. It truly comes from understanding your users. And obviously, in my specialty comes in a lot of design work that we do at the company. And really, how do you make that mode simple? How do you make it so that when you call Ace, she picks up the phone, remembers what we talked about, if you need that in that moment, or she feels that you have a worried or a rushed tone? How does she then pivot the conversation to what do you need, instead of chatting about something that you had already told her? So even in voice, how do you build the graph of that conversation is super important, even though a user can't see voice, but there is an interaction happening. How many times have you guys called and there's a voice agent that, I mean, AT&T and all of these companies which are like, no, CVS has one, and I hate it. Sorry, anyone who's from there, but how many times have you interacted with it and you're like, I just want to talk to a human, like get me to a human. And those agents are not built for that. The knowledge graph that was built inside that agent's brain was built for solving your problem no matter what. There was no end point. So how are you communicating that to the user that, this is how you can get to this a certain output, essentially. I do recommend Booking.com has a really good AI agent for their calls, and it does transfer to a real human. So I've been doing a lot of testing with who has good AI agents out there. It's hard to find. It is hard to find. Only when you want to cancel a booking is then they're like, oh, you want to talk to somebody. Anyone has questions about voice agents? Go ahead. No.
Yes, so, okay, that's not on. Whatever, so.
I can flip it on. Get a switch.
Right there. Simple. Okay, yep, that works. So I work at a edtech AI company. So I respect your work that you've done in the past. I know how difficult that is. And yeah, I was considering implementing, integrating some voice models as well. So I just wanted you to say maybe again what was the service you were using and how you integrated that and that whole process, or whatever superficial anything you wanted to share.
Yeah, happy to. So we use WAPI, WAPI. They're a voice company like 11 Labs is a very famous one. I see more people using 11 Labs. There's another one that's escaping my mind. I think it's one of the better ones. The cost was too high and we didn't go for it. I will look that up at the end of this conversation if someone else is interested in a higher cost voice agent. But that's, is that your question? What is the name of the agent? That's it?
Yes, and then like that process of integrating it as well. Yeah, how
Yes.
difficult was that, and just anything you
It was a
felt like
lot of
sharing?
YouTube videos, I'm not gonna lie. And like going through Reddit and understanding what the community is building and how they're using it. And then really also understanding what can I push from the outside and building tools inside the platform. I recommend using, if you're not an engineer, use Make. If you are an engineer and understand more complicated systems, N8N. And if you are someone in the middle, then also go for N8N because that is the future of how you can build it. Between N8 and WAPI 11 Labs, you can build something very quickly. And you can get a phone number from Twilio. WAPI has a phone number. So a lot of companies are providing voice integration into your existing platforms, for sure.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sorry, I have a question. Is it voice input or output, or is it both?
I guess both.
Okay.
I'm a little unsure of the question. Yeah.
So voice output would be you're an ed tech company and someone then, is reading out what's on the page for accessibility purposes.
Okay.
And input would be a user is talking first and asking a question, and then there's like, you're
Okay.
recording an answer, and both would be a conversation.
A good question, both. Yes.
Both, yeah.
So like them be reading out information, or like in the inclusion of some element of AI tutors, so having them be able to speak, so it's a little faster than chat, or actually speaking out loud the chat information as well.
Yeah. The hard part is capturing that conversation and summarizing it into their to learn about that conversation, so that becomes goes somewhere in your systems prompt, that this is how I talked to this student and this was the conversation and this is how detailed I had to go on certain elements. So what are you actually doing with that data that you get from that conversation is a very important factor you want to think of as you include a new modality.
That makes sense. And how long did it take you to set this up, like with WAPI? And like, how do you feel about
I
it?
mean, WAPI, you can set it up in seconds. You log into WAPI and you put in a systems prompt in there, and you can use the within 60 seconds, I can set up WAPI for you from sign up to setting up a voice agent. That's how good it is. Building tools inside it that it will collect information in the call, building a call summary, building call transcript, all of that, those other pieces that you want to build, the brain of that agent, all of that other stuff takes a lot of time.
That makes sense. And I'm an engineer myself, so like I've had to work. I actually built my platform, so like I had to integrate Stripe as well. Like
Yes.
some YouTube videos for that. Yeah, so it was a process for sure. It doesn't sound terribly difficult. And like, how did people feel about your voice agent? You said people loved it. Like, is that like ubiquitous? Is it like, how difficult is it for it to understand your context and things like that? Like anecdotally, of course.
Yeah, so she's trained on 2000 founder data, the data that we built the platform on. Because we built the platform on research, on understanding what are the milestones and challenges of founders, she has that as background inside her. So when you talk about something, she immediately knows what the next step or the next milestone you should be working on. In fact, after the call, she'll send you a summary of the email of the conversation and then tell you what the next steps were that we talked about. One of the things that we're working on inside our company are taking your next steps as a founder and acting them, using them, taking them as jobs to be done, and kind of pushing out slowly, like saying, hey, by the way, we talked about this yesterday. Here's something I found that would be helpful for you. So becoming these research agents for you that are keeping an eye for you in the ether, so that you can do what you're doing as a founder, but you have a, someone that has your back, essentially.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, I'll definitely be implementing that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also, as an engineer, one thing that I feel is often overlooked is that the only person who is going to use your voice-based AI product in the way it is intended to be used is the engineer who built it. No client of you is going to go in and follow the protocol. Everybody who's onboarding, their first goal is going to be, how can I break it?
Yes.
So that's something to really keep it in mind. And with say image or voice, obviously it's a more complex form of binary representation essentially for the computer. So it's compute heavy. It adds more complexity in terms of both bringing the data in, processing it, and spitting something out. So there's a lot of additional compute latency and delivery complications that are involved. So maybe so text was very simple. Anybody from any device can access it, but maybe voice, maybe say you need a certain quality of microphone in order to get the data in properly. Maybe certain devices that an end user might be using might not have that facility. Maybe there's a lot of noise. Like let's say voice in particular, there are multiple problems that can come even after you built the entire product simply because some end user somewhere doesn't have the right environment to use yours. So that can be noise, and there can be very poor audio quality, and then there can be latency, or if you are using some chained pipeline like text to speech to text, and then use an LLM for intelligence, and then once again text to speech again. What if your transcription piece is not working? What if there is a language constraint that people are throwing in a couple additional words from some other language, or what if it is limited by the accent of the person who's speaking? So there's a lot of such elements to also take into consideration, particularly when you're reading voice input. And the other key thing that I've noticed people being really upset with is that they want to be able to interrupt the model. Like if you ask a question and then the AI is giving you a big spiel on whatever it found, and like, okay, yeah, I know that. Like if you say you go into an ordering place and you say, hey, I want pizza, what are options? It lists all the 10 options. By the time you listen to 2, you've made your mind, okay, I want the buffalo pizza. But no, it's going to keep on saying things. So you need to have you need to program that activity detection. There are a lot of components involved beyond just getting input and output out. So that's also something that you should be keeping in mind.
Should we open the floor to questions?
It's about 4:45. Yeah, we'll open it up.
Hi, this is a question for David Rose, who's not here. So,
I will call him right now.
yes, so can you tell us whatever you know about it? I just looked online and read that he's got cameras looking around the
Yes.
boat, and he's using some kind of artificial intelligence. Do you know if it's deep learning?
deference to some others that have come on since. I'm wondering is one what the other ones are, and is it particular to something specific that you're doing? I know a lot of the discussion has been around language, and if would Langflow be the way to go for something else? Like what makes that regret
So-
happen?
The reason is that we built our RAG side of the platform on Langflow, and now we're having to choose other platforms to do some other capabilities that we want to enable. And we're finding that the other platform, like for example, N8N or Make or, are more user friendly to use. And we find that they can do a lot more with a lot less input. And it takes a shorter amount of time to do what you want with the other platforms versus what it has taken us to do with Langflow and integrate it into our current systems. And it could totally be our systems and how they're built. But Langflow is open sourced, and there's a lot more. There's resources available, but there are other like private companies that are providing these services and are building a lot faster for users and making money out of it, essentially. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions?
Can you talk about?
It's okay. Hi. Hi, I'm Haley. So thinking about the way that we as humans interact with AI, obviously from a brain-based perspective, I'm a behavioral scientist, we respond differently to humans than when we are responding to AI.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious when, if we are building AI products, might we want to really accentuate the fact this is AI because, for instance, getting bad news, we actually respond better if it's a robot than it is a human.
You're right.
And as we are building more and more realistic interactions, how do you consider when to model what kind of behavior and to disclose what level of AI is? Because, for instance, with Chewy, which have wonderful customer service, I was talking on their chatbot. I had no idea if it was a chatbot or a person.
That's true.
And so that is something, a really interesting kind of thing that I'm curious about from your
Yeah.
perspective.
I think it's like declaring your code is AI written, or when you're posting on Instagram and it says, was this content like, is your post written by AI? It asks you all these questions. It's about that transparency. And for us, we're an AI first platform. There is no human interaction yet. And the day we do add human interaction into the platform, we will have to distinguish between what is AI versus what is human. But to help to validate what you said about how users take bad news or news from AI, I think it's totally true. And we have more people calling ACE and talking about stressful situations and feeling like it's going to stay in this, like this conversation's not going to go anywhere else, versus talking to a human advisor where they feel judgment and bias. We have more women founders using ACE versus male founders, in just an example of when we did our pilot, and calling back again and again because they felt like they were not being judged. And she's helping them figure out what their next steps are, helping them with whatever task they came with. It's like no judgment zone. And every founder needs that. We need no judgment zone. Like, how could you have done that is not an answer to any of my questions ever, or when you're trying to do something, you will fall and you will make mistakes and you will learn from them. And AI is more forgiving than humans in that matter, for sure. So people enjoy using voice with an AI agent that is directing them to where they need to go to.
Yeah. I was just looking at the Founder Way app. I actually signed up.
Thank you.
Can you talk about what the Founder Match does? Is that something that like connects you with other founders?
Yes, it's
Okay.
a event-based app that we launched to make sure when you go to an event as a founder, we've not fully rolled out that app yet, but we've tested it with some events. Basically, you have a founder match event where you walk in and there's a founder match code. Everybody on that in that event has logged in to founder match, and you can see the top match of person that you've been connected to. I consider it a modality, to be honest with you, because it's a form of introduction. And when we introduce to you, the app just doesn't say, hey, you should go talk to them. It will say why you should talk to this person. And it will tell you, here are reasons why you guys are compatible, and this is the icebreaker that you should use to have this conversation with them. Yeah. It's like a co-founder matching event thing that happens at accelerators. Yeah. There's
How important is trust to pumping out upgrade to your system?
trust
Yeah,
in a
if it's interacting with the public, and if you, I mean, you say up front that your system is all AI, and I guess you paste it somewhere so people know that. But, you know, I'm coming across again, like I guess some other people interacting with these systems, and you can't tell if it's real or not.
Yeah.
And after you spent like 15 minutes,
really.
yeah, waiting, you talk to somebody, and then they put you on hold, and then they escalate it, and then it's the same thing. It's like the same routine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it leaves a real bad taste in my mouth when I
Totally.
hit something like that. So I'm just wondering, how do you balance trust to pumping out something on your system to make it, you know, like bulletproof? There's only so far you can go.
Yeah, she's very transparent. Like when you call Ace, she's AI. She'll tell you I'm your AI advisor. And we don't transfer calls. It's just that one interaction. What we are building inside Ace is agents of agents, which has been around for a while. But what we're looking is to partner with experts that are legal experts or accounting experts to be able to tap into a knowledge resource during that call. And it's so seamless, you wouldn't even know that she's tapped into a resource. And we can see it inside our back end that this is where, this is how she tapped into different resources in the call. But it's very seamless. It's not like, hold on, let me connect you to, another department. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I know
Yes,
you're making your system as
more
good as
seamless.
possible,
Yes.
but I think there's probably a number out there wanting to be first and get it out there for the numbers. And they are maybe cutting corners and then gonna fix it afterwards.
I think it really depends on the use case and of what you're building, and they're truly trying to compartmentalize how the AI directs the call. Possibly, could you give me the name of an industry that you felt this happening in?
I was trying to remember.
Telecom?
I was trying to remember what it was, but it hasn't come to me.
Okay.
I just know that it did happen, and I was really upset afterwards.
I'm sorry you had that experience. Yeah. We'll take the last question to wrap up this session. Or last two,
Kiran.
sorry.
I just wanted to ask, in your experience, why did you decide to go multimodal, and where are you finding that your users are kind of getting stuck, if you're discovering that?
Yeah. We felt like when we talked to founders through our user research, we felt like founders were saying, how can I have a conversation with someone where they can help me get unstuck? And we went on this journey to say, how can we go recruit people so that they can have office hours with these humans? And when we started to determine the cost of incorporating a human into that conversation and understanding what are the questions that these founders have that they want answered, we felt like we had enough expertise in-house that we could build ACE to answer some of these questions for founders, and then connect them to humans for more deeply strategic questions. So we tiered what founders were looking for, and we said, okay, let's solve majority of this challenge with AI because it's more cost efficient and it works. And then slowly we're starting to build the network of experts where we can then direct the founder to have a deeper conversation with a cost. And where are our founders getting stuck is truly the human element. I think where they're getting stuck is when we say you need to go and interview your users, or when you need to go and find out how your user currently solves the problem. People don't want to do that. People want to sit behind the screen and build. And they find it really hard to find that connection, to be like, I don't know any of my customers. I don't know where to find these people to talk to them. Well, that's where you self-select out of the process as a founder. If you can't do the hard thing to go and talk to your customers and be in an environment to be able to see how they're currently solving the problem, you can't learn to build what they really need. Thank you.
Let me ask.
Sure.
I can add one thing. Are you planning to do role playing and kind of that modality?
You know, we've gotten so much. It's one of those things where we've tossed the coin and it's sitting right in the middle. And every time we have a conversation with an accelerator or an institution, they're like, don't do that. They as it is, don't go. And they talk about their founders as they as it is, don't go out and do it, like, enough research. And if you provide them with this mode where it's like pseudo research, where it's a pseudo interview, like a FAW interview, where your persona is being interviewed, which we can so easily build, but we haven't built yet, and we're kind of ethically stuck in this situation where it's guiding the founders in a way where AI is a mirror. It will tell you what you want to hear sometimes, and we don't want you to not hear the difficult things your actual customer will tell you. So we want you to get out of the shell that you're in and interact with your users. Yeah. Last question, there was one out there. Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to hear you guys talk. Something I'm curious about is, as an engineer, when might we not use AI? For instance, throughout this talk, we've discussed how as a founder, it's really important to go and make those personal connections, see what your client base wants from you so that you can provide a valuable service, right?
Yeah.
Myself as an engineer, especially with these automated workflows, seems like I can implement many of these tools seamlessly, and my job is done in a week. What, as an engineer, should I do afterwards without AI that preserves my value to the company so that I can continue to generate something valuable in the future?
I think this is a you question. You're an engineer.
Yes, I think the differentiator is how the code or whatever product you build is different from someone else using the same tools and building it. You as the instructor of your AI, you can probably treat it like you're a senior engineer and your AI is just an intern. And how well you're able to extract output out of it, I think that is where your value comes in at this point. Where if the tool is like all powerful, it has the depth to implement a really complex workflow, engineering or code-wise, it's really the way in which you are able to work beyond just like that one-man unit. If you're able to work beyond that, like build really scalable systems, bring in that level of like leadership to some point into that tools implementation, that is where essentially your value comes in. And I think you can over time, you can definitely look at a piece of code and then say, this is AI generated, but somebody who knows how to do it did it. So I think that is the differentiator point.
You might also be underworked at your job.
Fair point.
You need to tell your manager. Yeah, it's not a bad thing, no. Side gig, start of Boston week. Well, I want to thank all of you for being patient with us while we figured out the challenge with speakers showing up. We appreciate you staying for this session, and thank you so much for all your questions, and thank you for having us.
Thank you. This was awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. Quick closing note. We have a Massachusetts Climate Tech Finale Showdown happening downstairs this evening. You can visit that. And also, 3 Circle Studio is our official photographer. You've been photographed all the time. And so in the hallway, there's a barcode you can scan, a QR code you can scan to download your customized photo album. We have facial recognition.